Peppa Pig, read it yourself. School bus trip. Peppa and her friends are going on a school bus trip.
Hooray!
Is everyone here? Says Madame Gazelle. Yes, they say. Everyone loves school trips. Where are we going for our trip? Says Peppa. We are going to the mountains, says Madame Gazelle. Hooray! Everyone says. They all look out as they go. The bus is going to the top of a big mountain. It is very high up.
Wow!
Come on, bus, says Peppa. Up, up, up they go. The children sing a song as they go.
La, 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 la.
The bus gets to the top and everyone gets out. Come and look at the big mountains, says Madame Gazelle.
Wow!
Peppa looks at the mountains. She is very high up. Wow, she says. Everyone hears, wow, wow, wow. What was that? Says Peppa. That was an echo, says Madame Gazelle. It is what you hear when you call out up in the mountains. Come on, everyone, says Peppa. We can all make an echo. The children call out. Wow, they can hear. Wow, wow, wow. Everyone loves echoes. Come on, children, says Madame Gazelle. It is time for your picnic. Hooray, says everyone. Where are the ducks? Says Peppa. They love it when we have picnics too. Peppa and her friends look out for the ducks. Here come the ducks. Hooray, says Peppa. Quack, 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 say the ducks. Come here, ducks, says Madame Gazelle. Yes, come to our picnic, ducks, says Peppa. Then the ducks have a big picnic too. It is time to go back to school. The children get in the bus. Then they sing a song as they go back down the mountain. Everyone loves school trips. The end. Read it yourself. Peppa Pig, Nature Trail. Peppa Pig and her family are going on a picnic in the woods. Daddy Pig has the map.
Wow!
We need the picnic too, says Mummy Pig. But the picnic is still in the car. In the woods, Peppa sees something on the ground. Look down there, says Peppa. I can see some footprints on the ground. Peppa and her family follow the footprints on the ground.
Wow!
A bird made these footprints, says Mummy Pig. Look up there in the tree, says Peppa. I can see some birds. There is a mummy bird and some little birds up in the tree. Then Peppa sees more little footprints on the ground. Look down there, says Peppa. I can see some ants. Peppa and her family are hungry. They need the picnic, but it is still in the car. Daddy Pig looks at the map. I don't know the way back to the car, he says. I know, says Peppa. I can see our footprints too. We can follow our footprints back to the car. Then it rains. The rain takes all the footprints away.
Oh no!
I know, says Peppa. I can see some ducks over there. Ducks love the rain and they love picnics. We can follow these ducks back to the picnic in our car. The hungry family follow the ducks all the way back to the car. I love picnics in the wood, says Peppa. The birds, the ants and the ducks love the picnic too. The end. Peppa Pig. Read it yourself with Ladybird. Sports Day. It is sports day at school.
Wow.
Peppa, George and everyone are there.
Hooray!
First, it is the running race. Ready, steady, go, says Madame Gazelle. They all run as fast as they can. Peppa is not ready. She comes last, and she is not at all happy. Rebecca Rabbit wins the running race. Hooray! Everyone says. Next is the long jump. Ready, steady, go, says Madame Gazelle again. George jumps as far as he can, but he comes last. George is not happy at all. Richard Rabbit wins the long jump.
Hooray!
Hooray! Everyone says. Next, it is the relay race. Ready, steady, go, says Madame Gazelle again. Daddy Pig runs as fast as he can. Here, Peppa, says Daddy Pig. Run as fast as you can. But Peppa is not ready. Emily Elephant wins the relay race.
Hooray!
Hooray! Everyone says. Peppa comes last again, and she is not happy at all. Next, it is the tug of war.
Wow!
Ready, steady, go, says Madame Gazelle. Everyone tugs as hard as they can. Snap! The rope breaks. Now everyone wins, says Madame Gazelle.
Hooray!
Hooray, says Peppa. I win at last. I like sports day. The end. Peppa Pig Scooters. Peppa and George are playing on their scooters. Whee! Cries Peppa. George is still learning how to ride his scooter. Don't worry, George, says Peppa. I'll teach you. Peppa tells George to hold on to the handlebars with both hands and then stand on the scooter. George tries, but he wobbles and falls over. No, George, says Peppa. Stand on the scooter with one foot. Soon George is zooming along on his scooter with Peppa. Whee! George, you're doing it! Cries Peppa happily. That's enough scootering for now, says Daddy Pig. It's time to go to playgroup. Peppa sighs. But we've only just started. Can we ride our scooters to playgroup, please, Daddy? Good idea, Peppa. It will be a lovely spot of exercise, says Daddy Pig. Hooray! Cheers, Peppa. Ready, steady, go! Wait for me, says Daddy Pig, chasing after Peppa and George on their scooters. Peppa and George ride their scooters up and down the hills all the way to playgroup. Whee! They call. Not so fast! Daddy Pig is out of breath. Peppa and George get to playgroup very quickly. Madame Gazelle is waiting for them. Bye-bye, Daddy! Cry Peppa and George when Daddy Pig finally arrives. Bye, says Daddy Pig, still panting. Oh no, now I have to walk home, says Daddy Pig. Wait, no I don't, I've got wheels. Daddy Pig hops on Peppa's scooter. Whee! Scootering is so much fun, he cheers. Peppa and George are painting pictures at playgroup. Madame Gazelle, says Peppa, we came to playgroup on our scooters today. Very good, Peppa and George, replies Madame Gazelle. Let's all paint pictures of how we travelled to playgroup today. Later on, Daddy Pig says, I don't think we should drive to pick up Peppa and George. Mammy Pig frowns. But it's a long walk to playgroup. We don't have to walk. We can scoot, says Daddy Pig. Race you! Oh, okay, says Mammy Pig, hopping on George's scooter. Whee! Mammy, Daddy, you brought our scooters! Cries Peppa. Peppa and George hop on their scooters. Whee! Ah, yes, says Daddy Pig. That seems to leave Mammy Pig and me without scooters for the journey home. Daddy Pig, gasped Mammy Pig, you said we wouldn't have to walk. We won't have to walk, says Daddy Pig, but we will have to run. Race you! Daddy Pig runs after Peppa and George as they zoom along on their scooters. Hey, wait for me, cries Mammy Pig. Peppa and George love scootering. Everyone loves scootering. The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.
Peppa Pig, best friends. Once upon a time, Peppa's best friend, Susie Sheep, came to play. I have something to show you, said Susie. Susie held up a photograph of a baby sheep. Look, it's me, said Susie. You're not a baby, Susie, said Peppa, shaking her head. This is an old photo, Susie explained. It was taken when I was a baby. Peppa snorted. She didn't remember Susie being a baby. That was just silly. Susie pointed at Peppa. In the olden days, you were a baby too, she said. I don't remember being a baby, says Peppa. But you were, insisted Susie. Ask your mummy. Peppa and Susie raced inside. Mummy Pig was working on the computer. Mummy, cried Peppa, Susie is making up stories. No, I'm not, Susie said. Peppa told Mummy Pig about Susie's silly idea. I don't remember being a baby, Peppa insisted. But you were a baby, Peppa, said Mummy Pig. Mummy Pig pulled up a picture of a baby pig on the computer. Who do you think this is, Peppa? She asked. Peppa thought that the baby looked like her cousin, Baby Alexander. Is it Baby Alexander? She asked. No, replied Mummy Pig. That's you as a baby, Peppa.
Wow.
Peppa was surprised. She had been a baby. Peppa and Susie giggled. Baby Peppa looked very cute. George and Daddy Pig came in to see what all the fuss was about. Look, Daddy, said Peppa, that's me as a baby. I remember it, said Daddy Pig. That photo was taken on our first day in this house. What do you mean? Asked Peppa. Daddy Pig told Peppa, Susie and George that they had moved into their house when Peppa was very little. We brought all our things on top of our car, he said. Mummy Pig put up some pictures, said Daddy Pig. Daddy Pig put up a shelf, said Mummy Pig. And Grandpa made us a lovely flower garden. Peppa and Susie went outside. There was no flower garden at this house. Why don't we have a flower garden now? Peppa asked. We used to, but Daddy Pig looked after it, Mummy Pig sighed. Said Daddy Pig, embarrassed. We had the wrong kind of soil for flowers. Was Susie my friend in the olden days? Asked Peppa. Daddy Pig nodded. Of course, he said. You and Susie have always been best friends. Peppa wondered what game she played with Susie when they were little. Did we jump up and down in muddy puddles? She asked. No, Mummy Pig laughed. You were babies. You couldn't even walk yet. What did we do when we were babies? Asked Susie. You cried. You burped. And you laughed, said Mummy Pig. Susie and Peppa giggled. It must have been so silly being babies. Baby Peppa. Baby Susie. And then you grew into toddlers, continued Mummy Pig. And you played together all the time. But where was George? Peppa asked. He was a baby in my tummy, said Mummy Pig. Peppa thought for a moment. Daddy Pig's tummy was even bigger than Mummy's. Is there a baby in there? She asked. No, Peppa, chuckled Daddy Pig. This tummy is pure muscle. Soon George was born, Mummy Pig said, and Granny and Grandpa Pig bought him a very special present. Can you guess what it was, Peppa? Peppa knew just what present it had been. Mr. Dinosaur, she cried. Grr, grr, grr. Daddy Pig said that little Peppa and Susie liked to do everything together. They liked to jump, dance, and run around all over the place. Then one day, said Mummy Pig, you saw something amazing. A muddy puddle. You love jumping up and down in muddy puddles together, said Mummy Pig.
I still love muddy puddles,
cried Peppa.
Me too,
cried Susie. Peppa, George and Susie looked for the biggest muddy puddle they could find and jumped right in. Daddy Pig brought his camera. Let's take a photo of you, Susie and George now, Peppa, he said.
Yes, exclaimed Peppa, because Susie and I were best friends in the olden days and we're still best friends now.
Little or big, Peppa and Susie will always be best friends, and they will always love jumping up and down in muddy puddles. The end. Peppa Pig. This book is all about Peppa Pig.
That's me.
Peppa lives with Mummy and Daddy Pig and her little brother George, and with Goldie, Teddy and Mr. Dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
At playgroup, Madame Gazelle teaches Peppa and her friends. They paint, play, sing, and do lots of fun things.
Hooray!
Peppa likes dressing up as everything. But her favourite thing to do is jump in muddy puddles. Peppa loves spending time with her granny and grandpa, especially dinner time.
Yummy, my favourite.
Sometimes Peppa has so much fun she doesn't want to go to bed.
This is the best book ever.
But she always enjoys a bedtime story. The end. Peppa Pig, Cold Winter Day. It is a cold winter day. Peppa and George have wrapped up warm in their hats, scarves and mittens to go and feed the ducks.
Look, it's a muddy puddle,
cries Peppa. Peppa loves jumping in muddy puddles. She runs over to the puddle, but as she tries to jump in, she slips.
Oh, it's frozen solid,
she says. Snorts George.
It's not funny, George,
says Peppa. Daddy Pig loves muddy puddles too.
Be careful, Daddy,
shouts Peppa. Daddy Pig has jumped straight onto the frozen puddle. Whoa, says Daddy Pig, wobbling about. It's lucky I'm so good at balancing. Everyone keeps walking until they find the duck pond.
Wow!
Peppa and George throw some bread to the ducks, but it just bounces along the surface. The pond is frozen too. Peppa and George both giggle as the ducks slide around.
Sorry for laughing, Mrs. Duck,
says Peppa.
but you do look funny.
Look, it's snowing, says Daddy Pig.
I'm going to catch lots of snowflakes,
shouts Peppa. Says George as he tries to catch them too.
Hello, Peppa and George,
Says Susie Sheep. We're going to have a toboggan race.
Wow.
Please, can we go and watch? Asked Peppa. Of course, says Mummy Pig. Let's walk up the hill to the start.
Hooray!
Daddy Pig picks up George because it is too slippery for him to walk up the hill on his own. What about me? Says Peppa. It's a bit slippery for me too. Come on then, says Daddy Pig, scooping up Peppa. Mummy Pig tells Daddy Pig to be extra careful not to fall over. Don't worry, Mummy Pig, he says. I'm very good at balancing. At the top of the hill, all the toboggans are just setting off when Daddy Pig topples over and starts skidding down the hill. He zooms past Danny Dog, Zoe Zebra and Pedro Pony. Soon, Daddy Pig is in the lead. Peppa and George are sitting on Daddy Pig's tummy. Whee! They call. They are enjoying the ride. Peppa and George win the race.
Hooray!
My daddy makes a great toboggan, Peppa tells everyone. All the children are laughing about Peppa and George's special toboggan ride. It's not funny, says Daddy Pig. It is a bit funny, says Mummy Pig. I suppose it is a bit funny. Daddy Pig agrees. Everyone laughs. The end. Peppa Pig, Grumpy Rabbit's Lighthouse. Peppa, George and Danny Dog are helping deliver supplies to Grandad Dog's friend, Grumpy Rabbit. Where does Grumpy Rabbit live? asked Peppa. Out at sea on a rock, says Grandad Dog. On a rock, says Peppa. Yes, in that lighthouse, says Danny.
Wow.
Oh, gasped Peppa and George. They land at the lighthouse.
Hooray!
Visitors! Exclaims Grumpy Rabbit. I haven't had visitors in many a moon. I get lonely with just the sea and the sky for company. How long have you been here? asked Peppa. Since Tuesday, says Grumpy Rabbit. I've got tales to tell, says Grumpy Rabbit, if you'd like to hear. No thanks, says Grandad Dog quickly. Yes, please, reply Peppa and Danny. Grumpy Rabbit starts to sing. I got up this morning, the sea was still there, so was the sky. The sea, the sky, the sea, the sky. Peppa and Danny join in. Why is your house called a lighthouse? asked Peppa. I'll show you, says Grumpy Rabbit. They climb a staircase to the very top of the lighthouse. It's called a lighthouse because it has this big light at the top, says Grumpy Rabbit.
Wow.
It shines through the dark, helping sailors find their way. Grumpy Rabbit takes out a megaphone. And when it's foggy, I use this foghorn. He says, Fog! That's loud, cries Peppa. No fog today, just sea and sky, says Grumpy Rabbit sadly. The stories I could tell. No thanks, says Grandad Dog. We must be going. Peppa, George, Danny and Grandad Dog set off for home. It is now very dark. Don't worry, says Grandad Dog. The light from Grumpy Rabbit's lighthouse will show us a way home. Grumpy Rabbit is ready for bed, so he turns the light out. He also turns the big light out. Grandad Dog phones Grampy Rabbit. "Could you turn the big light on again?" he asked. The big light shines again. "Hooray!" cry Peppa and Danny. "It is getting foggy." "I can't see the light anymore," says Peppa. Grandad Dog phones Grampy Rabbit. "It's us again," he says. "Can you sound the foghorn, please?" "Fog!" bellows Grampy Rabbit. "Fog!" Grampy Rabbit's voice is like a foghorn. Thanks to Grampy Rabbit, they arrived back safe on land. Mummy Pig, Daddy Pig, and Mrs. Dog are waiting to take them home. "We went to a lighthouse," says Peppa excitedly. "Grampy Rabbit's lighthouse guided us home safely," says Grandad Dog. "Grampy Rabbit sang a song. Would you like to hear it?" asks Peppa. "No thanks," says Grandad Dog. "Yes, please," say the parents. Peppa and Danny sing. "I got up this morning, the sea was still there. So was the sky, the sea, the sky." The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa and her golden boots. It was the day of the big puddle jumping competition. Peppa and her friends were practicing jumping up and down in muddy puddles. "My daddy always wins," boasted Peppa. "He said the first rule of puddle jumping is to wear your boots, and mine are very special because they are made of gold." "They are not gold," replied Susie Sheep. "They're yellow." "They are not yellow, they're real plastic gold," protested Peppa. "Would anyone like some orange juice?" called Mummy Pig from the house. "Yes, please," replied everyone. They ran inside, leaving their boots outside the front door. When Peppa and her friends had finished their juice, they headed outside to put on their boots. "Oh no, my boots have gone," sobbed Peppa. Mr. Zebra arrived with the post. "I've just seen a duck with boots on," he said. Peppa sniffed. "Were they gold?" "No, yellow," he replied. His duck came running down the hill wearing Peppa's golden boots. Peppa ran after her. "Mrs. Duck, can I please have my boots back, please?" But Mrs. Duck did not want to give Peppa's boots back. She didn't stop running until she reached Captain Dog's boat. No one could stop Mrs. Duck. She leapt into the water and swam away. Captain Dog started his engine. "I think my boat can go faster than that duck," he exclaimed. But Captain Dog's boat could not keep up with Mrs. Duck. That's a fast duck," he said. Mrs. Duck finally stopped at a little island where Grampy Rabbit had been shipwrecked when his boat capsized. "Mrs. Duck has my boots and she won't give them back," Peppa called. "Don't worry, Peppa," replied Grampy Rabbit. "Mrs. Duck has nowhere to go." But then Mrs. Duck started flying and she was still wearing the boots. "Oh no!" cried Peppa. "Mrs. Duck is flying to the moon with my boots." "Don't worry, Peppa," said Grampy Rabbit, pointing to the neighbouring island. "We'll take my rocket." I really don't think Peppa's boots will be on the moon," said Mummy Pig. "Nonsense," insisted Grampy Rabbit, helping everyone into the rocket. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! On the moon, Peppa and her friends searched everywhere for Mrs. Duck and the golden boots. Let's ask at the shop, suggested Susie Sheep. You don't get shops on the moon, exclaimed Daddy Pig. Postcards, called Mrs. Rabbit from inside her gift shop. Ice cream, buckets and spades. Meanwhile, Grandpa Pig had spotted Mrs. Duck in his garden. Those aren't your boots, are they? He asked. He quickly dialed Daddy Pig's number. Oh, hello, Grandpa Pig, said Daddy Pig. Yes, Peppa has lost some boots. We'll be right there. Next stop, Grandpa Pig's garden, announced Grandpa Pig. Peppa bounced excitedly out of the rocket. My boots, my golden boots, she exclaimed. Thank you, Grandpa. Grandpa Pig helped Peppa to put her boots on. Now we can go to the puddle jumping competition, said Mammy Pig. Oh, yes, agreed Daddy Pig. We'd better hurry. The big puddle jumping competition was about to begin. First up, Daddy Pig, cried Mr. Potato. Daddy Pig took a giant leap and made a very big splash. Then it was Mr. Elephant's turn, and Mr. Elephant made an even bigger splash. Mr. Elephant is the winner, announced Mr. Potato. Peppa cleared her throat. Please, can I have a go too? She asked. Oh, of course, replied Mr. Potato. And can all of my friends help? Peppa added. Mr. Elephant was not pleased. Hang on, I don't think that's really it. Sounds perfectly fair to me, interrupted Daddy Pig. Peppa and her friends formed a circle and held hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they all chanted. Jump! Whee! Peppa and her friends made the biggest splash ever. Peppa and her friends are the winners, declared Mr. Potato. I still think, began Mr. Elephant. Hooray! Everyone cheered loudly. Peppa loved her golden boots. Everyone loved their boots. And everyone loved the big puddle jumping competition. The end. Peppa Pig, Daddy Pig's office. Today, as a special treat, Peppa and George are visiting Daddy Pig's office. Daddy, what do you do at your office all day? Asked Peppa. Lots of fun things, replies Daddy Pig. We're here, he tells the children as they arrive at a very tall building. Hello, says Daddy Pig into the intercom. Hello, Daddy Pig, says a voice. Can I press the button? Peppa asks. Of course, Peppa, Daddy replies. My office is at the top. We have to go up in the lift, Daddy Pig tells the children. Can I press the button? Asks Peppa excitedly. I think it's George's turn. Press the top button, please, George, says Daddy Pig. The lift takes him to the top floor. Hello, everyone, grunts Daddy Pig. Hello, say Mr. Rabbit and Mrs. Cat. They work with Daddy Pig. I have two very special visitors with me today, Peppa and George, says Daddy Pig. Let's begin a tour, suggests Daddy Pig. Mr. Rabbit, can we start at your desk? We certainly can, replies Mr. Rabbit. My job is all about numbers. I take important pieces of paper and stamp them with a rubber stamp, Mr. Rabbit tells him. Wow, gasp the children. Peppa likes stamping paper. On with the tour.
Next is Mrs. Cat's desk, exclaims Daddy Pig. Hello, Peppa and George. Says Mrs. Cat.
Meow.
My job is all about drawing shapes on a computer. Can I try? Asked Peppa. I think it's George's turn, says Daddy Pig. Yes, it's your turn to work, George, says Peppa. Agrees George. Mrs. Cat helps George to make lots of blue triangles. Now we print the triangles out, Peppa cries. The printer spits out sheets of paper everywhere. George and Peppa think it's hilarious. Do you want to see my desk? Daddy Pig asks. Yes, please, says Peppa. Daddy Pig's job is very important. Do you use stamps or a computer? asks Peppa. No, replies Daddy Pig. I use coloured pens. Peppa and George love colouring pens. George is drawing a dinosaur. George always draws dinosaurs, says Peppa, bored. Dinosaur, says George. Ding ding! The office clock has just chimed. My goodness, 5 o'clock already, says Daddy Pig. It is time for Peppa, George and Daddy to go home. You've been doing my job very well, snorts Daddy Pig. I like doing Mr. Rabbit's job and I like doing Mrs. Cat's job, but I like doing your job the best, Daddy, says Peppa. Peppa and George have had an excellent day at Daddy Pig's office. The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.